Tonight's lecture takes us into one of nature's most extraordinary stories. Every year, birds weighing sometimes little more than a few hundred grams undertake journeys that many of us would consider impossible, crossing the mighty Himalayas, enduring freezing temperatures, thin air, and immense distances to reach Sri Lanka. Understanding how they accomplish these feats not only fills us with wonder, but also deepens our appreciation of the remarkable interconnectedness of life on our planet. We are especially fortunate to have with us this evening someone who has devoted much of his career to uncovering these remarkable stories. Professor Sampath Seneviratne is one of Sri Lanka's leading ornithologists and evolutionary ecologists. He graduated from the University of Colombo with first-class honors in zoology, winning two gold medals for academic excellence. I'd like to just mention that when we asked Professor Sampath for his bio, he just sent us 2 paragraphs, and I felt that we wouldn't be doing him justice. So we had to do our own research to tell us, so that you get to know the kind of things, which otherwise only the research and academic community knows about. So after completing his postgraduate studies in Canada and his PhD at the Memorial Institute of Newfoundland, before undertaking postdoctoral research appointments at the University of British Columbia and Birds Canada. Today, he serves as professor in the Department of Zoology and Environmental Sciences at the University of Colombo, where he leads the Aviation Evolution Node and the Laboratory for Molecular Ecology and Evolution. Many of you will know him particularly for his pioneering work on migratory birds and use of satellite tracking technology to follow their journeys across Asia. Through this work, he and his colleagues have revealed fascinating new insights into the epic migrations that connect Sri Lanka with the wide Asian region, helping to place our country at the forefront of migration research. Beyond his scientific achievements, Professor Sampath serves in leadership roles in several professional organizations, including as president of the Sri Lanka Ecological Association and vice president of the Field Ornithology Group of Sri Lanka. Sampath is also a birder, a forester, and a conservation spearhead, fighting tirelessly to save the last remaining patches for these birds. And I like to mention here, I have to mention that he is also a life member of Sri Lanka Natural History Society. We are privileged to have him with us this evening, and I'm sure we are all looking forward to learning more about these remarkable birds that cross the world's highest mountains, range to reach our shores. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in giving a warm Sri Lanka Natural History Society welcome to Professor Sampath Seneviratne. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the introduction. The problem with the digital age is that you can find old CVs so in the online. So yeah, thank you for the effort. Right. So I'm going to talk about the flying over Himalayas. Some of the findings of this phenomena, but before that, I'll start with the migration as a whole, and then where we are in terms of the knowledge and why it matters to the natural history of the country. Again, thank you for the invitation and the introductions. I'm glad that the age structure has started to shift to and more young people. I could remember about 12, 15 years ago, I was invited to for a talk, and it's near the Apex Towers. The age structure is quite different then. So it's great. I think the society had invested a lot to get the younger crowd in. I think it seems like it's working. Right. I think it should work, I guess. The arrows are not working. or maybe the cursor now. That now it's working. The cursor. All right. So the migration is the movement of animals from one particular location to another in a predictable, normally some cyclic way. So it's not like it's not just moving from A to B, but you move from A to B and B to A and A to B again and again for some environmental or behavioral or physiological reasons. Migration is fascinating. For example, this particular instance, this is a leatherback turtle. And you can see, I'll see whether I can get the arrow laser pointer. Yeah. So in this case, this leatherback turtle tagged in, it's a geotagged turtle in June 2007, and it's moving. And by October, it's now past the Caribbeans and into the actual Newfoundland and into the Middle Atlantic. This is where the Titanic had sank, actually, somewhere here. So it went to further north and then head down to Spain in by about January the next year. And like that, eventually, it will, after about 1.5 years, it will be in south of near Azores, in the western coast of Africa. So, so the life cycle of or the lifespan of a turtle is much longer. So this is like a tiny speck of its life. But so eventually, at one point in time, it will go back to its beaches in the Central Americas. So and it will continue. Another slightly more dramatic one, the great white sharks between Hawaii and San Francisco. You can see that this is a 1-year cycle of many sharks, and you can see that they move around very predictable way and aggregate in one where this red arrow is. Probably that's where there might be their breeding take place or some socializing take place. So it's very predictable. A more land oriented one of the greatest. Yes. I can do that. So some of the greatest land migrations include these wildebeest. It's a form of antelope in Africa, very famous for the Ngorongoro to Serengeti to Masai Mara. So they move around following chasing clouds and rain in millions. Again, predictable. It's a pattern, and large numbers do that. The strangest of all this is to me at least, I'm pretty sure this is not the only one, is the migration of monarch butterflies of the North America, where in the hills of Mexico, the pupae hatch and butterflies emerge, and the butterflies fly north, and then they breed, and the subsequent generation fly further north. And their subsequent generation eventually enter into the southern Canada. And so the migration took about 3-4 generations over the summer. And then at the end, when the northern ones, in Canadian butterflies, they fly south. So it's highly genetically imprinted, where it's like you start this pilgrim or this journey where your great grandkids will finish it and come back, and their kids will start it. So amazing, like it's a clock goes beyond time, beyond generations, beyond individuals. So all these are fascinating stories. But the bird migration, considered the greatest dance, the most epic migration of all migrations. Why? It's partly birds are probably more closer than a butterfly to a person, or to a wildebeest in Africa, or a saiga antelope in the northern grasslands, maybe, or a leatherback turtle. But check this out. This is white storks, a close relative of the open bill stork in Sri Lanka. white storks do come to Sri Lanka. If you are a hardcore birder, you might try to at least spot it. There's about 4 records in Sri Lanka. When I was 12 years old, my father and brother and we managed to spot the 3rd record. A bird about the size of a gill. The reason that I'm showing these are geotagged birds. These are actual tagged birds, large numbers. You can see these are actual movements. So the birds in Europe, these are white storks in Europe. In fall, they basically disappear from the European city. But this is fall. So then they slowly fly south. Some goes to Spain, to Gibraltar, and cross to Mexico, Morocco. Some goes to the Gaza Strait and cross and come down along the slightly west of Nile. The ones go down of Nile go straight down all the way to India or that area, southern Africa. The ones that go through Gibraltar into Morocco, the Ivory Coast, West Africa, and then in the spring they'll fly north. Again, they take the same route, and there have been instances where the same nest, the male flies one direction, the female flies one direction. So it's in a grandeur scale across the thousands and thousands of birds of the entire population do that. Something happened. All right, yeah. So is it yeah, okay. I didn't touch, but I'll ensure that it won't. Right, sure, I'll show you. Right, so sorry, there was some technical glitch. I'll go back and ensure that it's there. Right, so this disappearance of white storks from the roofs of the cathedrals and the prominent buildings in towns had actually given some of the early insights of the Europeans about the birds disappear in winter. So there were different theories. They hibernate like bears. Some thought they fly into clouds and withstand, overcome the winters. And I'm pretty sure some might thought of they might fly somewhere south. But anyway, so there wasn't much of a conclusion about where they come back. They go and there they come. And in fact, even in Sri Lanka, I'm in a way proud and I'm in a way sad. Till we start the satellite tagging program, it was a bloody guesswork. Just people guessing where the birds are coming from. There are so many books written on it, so many articles means just newspaper and such articles talk about migration, but there wasn't any evidence how they migrate. It was a bloody guessing game. People think that they know about birds, and ornithology is such a cheap and overused word. Anybody who even eat chicken call that they are ornithologists. I asked from undergraduates. So I give a list of things, doing research, finding funds, doing actual research on birds. Okay, they agree it's ornithology. I asked showing birds to foreigners. They think that's ornithology. Talking about birds for newspapers and wherever, even in universities, they think that's ornithology. Eating chicken, some say that's ornithology. Raising chicken coop, for them clearly ornithology. So that's such a abuse, such a overused word, the word term and ornithology. So the ornithology, so-called this overused, wrongly used ornithology in Sri Lanka, claim that they know where they are. We didn't know where they come from. We are started to understand where they come from and how they fly and where they go after Sri Lanka. So same was in about 200 years ago in Europe, where people didn't know what happening to these birds that are breeding on this sort of roofs, these prominent white birds. some hard evidence started to come up. I'm pretty sure there were other. I'm pretty sure some people knew these birds fly south and come back, but there wasn't any documented cases. But then some of the prominent documented cases came from these birds coming with spear. So since white storks are considered like an important bird for the European cities and they are common like city dwellers, people started to notice some of the birds has weapons attached to it. And upon examination, some of these spears, they realized these are not of European origin. In fact, so these spears were tested and published, their origins and all. Archaeologists studied and showed that those were of African origin. In fact, they actually managed to pinpoint exact locations of some of these arrowheads came from. The Namibian Bushmen. If you're not sure what they are, if you must have seen the God Must Be Crazy movie, those people. So that was the kind of the first hard evidence that the birds actually fly, thousands, tens of thousands of kilometers in the summer, in the winter for tropical latitudes, and then come back. And so this was kind of some of the first evidence of actual scientific evidence beyond simple assumptions that because I watch birds, I know birds kind of attitude. Beyond that, to know that these birds actually coming from southern Africa, at least some of them. So now we know through that, I showed you that through geotagged birds, exactly how they go, even individuals, where they stop and so on. It's a terrible projection. Sorry about that. So there's a world map underneath. And so these are the main global migratory flyways. The one that I showed you is here, the one that originates in Europe. And it has two parts. One went through the Western Europe, and the other one went through the Central Africa, from Eastern Europe to Central Africa. So there are such 8 or 9, depending on whom you're talking to, global flyways exist in the planet. Of that, so like Pacific America's flyway, Central America's flyway, Atlantic America's flyway, then East Atlantic flyway, the yellow one, the Black Sea flyway, or Mediterranean flyway, and the Eastern Asian African flyway, Central Asian flyway, and East Asian Australasian flyway. So these are the bigger flyways. We are on the Central Asian flyway. Of all the flyways, Central Asian flyway is the only completely landlocked flyway. It doesn't have a place where the birds exposed to oceans, except in Mannar and north of Jaffna. But it's a tiny land bridge, so they don't get exposed, and it retains in the northern hemisphere. All other flyways goes from north to south. So it's a fairly different flyway, and Sri Lanka, as you can see, is at the southern terminus of this conical landlocked flyway, and one of the largest in the world. Estimated 4 billion, starting from billion birds fly through back and forth. 15 million fly to Sri Lanka from it. It's a fairly substantial highway on air. So this is how it looks like. They fly from Arctic through Central Asia and eventually could land into Sri Lanka. Not all birds come to Sri Lanka. Anyway, so this fairly large area, about 1/5 of the planet, about 1/3 of all migrants known to science fly through this flyway. Very important, one of the least studied flyways, very few PhDs produced. Gayamini's PhDs, like, Gayamini Panagoda, she recently finished her PhD, is probably one of the first true PhDs done on that. And we are the University of Colombo with the partnership of Chinese Academy of Sciences, Wetlands International, and Bombay Natural History Society. We are the pioneers of the study of migration in this flyway, which is different. I mean, the core talk, the title, actually title was given to me by the society. It's about its uniqueness of this particular flyway. It's unique because it's landlocked, and the birds that are flying in that flyway has to do it's like a hurdle race. We are constantly one after another, about 7 to 8 very large, some of the tallest mountain ranges of the planet goes through it. So you have to fly over one after another. Then finally you have the tallest mountain range of the planet. It's so tall, even trees don't grow, no oxygen. There is oxygen, but it's not enough. It's a cruising altitude of a Boeing 747, like, 20 to 30,000 foot altitude, about 20,000, 25,000, 30,000 altitude. So like, only lichens found. And so these birds have to navigate these barriers. It's like, so it starts with the central Siberian plateau. If you fly from north to south, then South Siberian mountains, and then you have the Tian Shan range, a beautiful mountain range in the Central Asia. And then you have the steppe and deserts, very dry because these are plateaus very far up, dry plateaus, no water, no trees. And then you have the Tibetan plateau with the Himalayan ridge. And this is Himalayan ridge. And so the birds that fly along this route has to navigate all this. So it's unique. And the one way of dealing with that problem is that to avoid the entire thing. So most birds in the Central Asian flyway will go around these barriers and get a longer route and avoid the harsh climbs and descents and valleys, icy air and all. So the Himalayan range in particular, it's kind of a barrier that kind of bisect the Central Asian flyway. Because of that, compared to other flyways which are more linear, this has this triangular kind of a nature which has two arms. We were a few years ago, about a decade ago, in BirdLife International, we tried to come up with a mascot for the Central Asian flyway. All flyways have their own kind of mascot. Central Asian flyway can't have one mascot because like the birds in the eastern arm is very different from the birds in the west arm. And the birds found in the eastern arm doesn't represent in the west arm, and vice versa. So if you have a mascot from here, those birds never occur in the other arm. So we ended up having two mascots. One is the bar-headed goose, because it's iconic behavior. And then the other one was debated whether it's a sociable lapwing or the curlew sandpiper. I think curlew sandpiper is winning, which has the representation from both sides. Anyway, some of the mascots suggested never come to Sri Lanka, so we didn't like it. Anyway, coming back, so this is unique because of the Himalayas, because of it's that physical challenge that it poses. And then you have the bar-headed goose. I thought I have to mention bar-headed goose because the invitation had a very strong clause. Mr. Prashant really stressed that you have to talk about bar-headed goose. I said, no, I don't talk about bar-headed goose. There's more interesting things there for Sri Lanka than bar-headed goose for the rest of the world. But he said, no, you have to tell something about it. So here I have a few slides and a video for you. Bar-headed goose is an amazing species. It's actually, it is the flagship species that brought attention to the Central Asian flyway. It's about 3 to 5 kilo large bird, a goose, like a medium-sized goose, but a very large bird, and very heavy, like 3 kilos. It could reach to 5 kilos, and a common bird in Mongolia, and relatively common bird in the South Asia, not found in Sri Lanka. There's one escapee in mid 20th century, And then in 2016, my research team, we spotted one in Mannar, and then I think there was another record, but not that rare in here. And then people knew that it flew over because there were the climbers in Himalayas had spotted them flying over. So, and then there, when you check the A and B and their records, you can see that they fly straight down. So that was the first, and these are the records. And then with the avian influenza outbreak in 2000 and I think 2005 onwards, and cases found with geese and domestic geese, there was some pioneering work done by some people in several labs that actually we have some contacts with, which operate in the region. Managed to satellite tag them and showed that they actually fly through the Tibetan plateau into South Asia and back. So that was the first instance. Then the problem is how they do that. There were people done studies. There's at least 2-3 PhDs done in some of the big places. NASA got involved at one point. I could remember, and then she showed that the mitochondria moved from the cell. For the medical crowd who understands, so the mitochondria migrate closer to the cell wall, cell membrane, so that the really last bits of oxygen can be harnessed in this treacherous journey. But the thing is that these guys are 3 kilos, fairly big. They are fairly large birds in the bird world. Let's see a small video.
From the base of the Himalayas in India, we head to Nepal and Bhutan, mountain kingdoms on the top of the world. The Himalayas are made of range upon range of mountains, building height. The air becomes dangerously thin. Bar-headed geese are the highest flying birds in the world. The higher they go, the faster the jet stream. A 100-mile-an-hour tailwind catapults them over the Himalayas. Bar-headed geese fly higher than Everest. Their blood is different, with special hemoglobin, and they can breathe faster and deeper, many gulps for each wing beat. They suffer severe hypoxia, way beyond any human athlete, pushing the boundaries of pain.
So the advantage of flying up through over Himalayas is obvious. It's shorter route. It's thin air, so there's resistance. Like a plane, like a passenger aircraft would do the same. Go up, so you have thin air, less resistance. You can follow the curvature of the planet more than the whatever the topography of it. And then your energy wastage is less. But the downside is that you have to deal with oxygen, lack of oxygen, and the temperature, very cold temperature. So that's what they've done. So right, let's zoom into Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka is here, and you can see that Himalayas towering north of us in any global geology lesson. You can't ignore this massive mountain range. It's more like a plate. I have a map in my office, a 3D map. The globe is kind of tilted, like its symmetry goes off simply because of the Tibetan plateau. It's such it's like somebody put something accidentally on top of the nice globe. So it's such a so it's 8 kilometers of a mountain. Goes up. It's a lot of mountain, and the entire thing is there. So it's very cold, very dry, and you can see that. So from Sri Lanka, you can see it about 2,000 kilometers up. That is what we have, and so the birds that fly in the Central Asian flyway, or this part of the globe, which is about 2/3 of the world's migrants, about 1,600 species. Of that, about 500 species found in Sri Lanka. Of that, about half of it are migrants. So we get a small percentage of migrants of that entire flock. But what we get is special because that's the terminus. That's the southernmost edge of the flyway. And we are located in a very special location where we are connected. This is the Silk Road. You can see the red lines are the terrestrial, the terra firma Silk Road, and this is the maritime Silk Road. And we are one of the most important points of the maritime Silk Road, and the trend continues. This is the aerial, the aviation associated, like global air routes in the region where Sri Lanka is here. And then this is the sea route where this dark red orange line goes through Sri Lanka. So we are very much in a very important place in the global position. I mean, there's about 182 nations in the planet. We are clearly represent, much more than our location, our size, or our technological capacity, or our human capital, or whatever. We possess some very special features in our position. So this whole migration story, it reflects that very unique position of the country. I'll talk about it at the end. So what to do this as go beyond guessing game, go beyond I know, just believe me because I know kind of an attitude, to actually look at science into this, to make it real ornithology, the study of birds. Ology is the study, ornitho is the bird. So to put bird study, scientific study of birds onto this concept of moving, birds move in numbers to us and away from us, and how you do that. So about 6 to 7 years ago, we started this project to really understand, using the cutting edge technologies. We have to come up with some of the alterations, modifications as well, to study migration of birds in the Central Asian flyway, to understand how they navigate these passages, how they come into Sri Lanka, and where they go and where they come from. So we started this. It's not a one person, like a single thing. One of the main people there is this lady that you see. She started her PhD then in 2018, and then we slowly acquire technology, the facilities, the tools, the science, the analysis, and all over time with other members for GESEL, Colombo University, FOG, and then my lab, and then the Chinese Academy of Sciences, and then few other parties, as you go, Wetlands International, BirdLife International, and so on. And we started to use these specific tags. There are different types of satellite tags available. We use the GPS, GSM tags. These are the tags that basically we hijack the existing cell phone telecommunication system, where through the telecommunication towers, we tap the satellites. So rather than directly communicating to satellites, you go through the telecommunication network. Since Asia is dense in population, human populations, and these are landlocked flyway, you can do that. In certain flyways, you can't, because the birds go away from areas where people live. But in this flyway, you can actually use that. It's cheaper. It gets complicated at times, but generally it's a way, it's a kind of a using the existing technology to come up with new information. So you set up this. If there are different models, like single antenna model, double antenna model, and then antenna-less model where antenna is hidden, and most of those has a solar panel so that you daily get the batteries charged. So these devices, compared to some of the early versions of radio tags where it lasts only a few months, these ones last for a few years, 3 to 4 years if you're lucky. Usually they won't last like that long. You have to be really lucky. but technologies, they are quite to run. And then it gives you the height, the speed, the location in every half an hour, or the way you program it, and some little bit more information. So and then if the bird is dead, it will tell you it's dead. If it is sleeping, it tells you it's sleeping. If it is feeding, it will tell you that, and the height and elevation, position, and so on. Wherever it's in the globe, you'll see it. I'm sorry, the quality is not that great, it's kind of grainy. But these are some of the way it's done. You set up the bird. It's a kind of bit of a complicated thing. You have to have special permits to catch birds. You have to have special permits to use these telecommunication devices. You need clearance from the Defense Ministry, the Treasury. You need the permits from Telecommunication Regulation Commission. You need a permit from Wildlife Department. And if you use somebody's areas, lands, and all, you need special clearance from those. So it's a complicated operation. And then when you have it, you spend about 2 hours for this operation. It's not a surgical procedure, but it's a special procedure where you have to get trained, and you have to have a license, and you have to have a clearance, animal care and so on to do that. And when you have it, then you can do this. And so these are some of the people, field assistants and students, graduate students, and all, time to time get involved. So this is important picture. This is the Parasus gull, the largest gull in the planet. We tagged that at once. This is Hughlin gull on my lap. We had a fair bit of findings with them. These are the ones that I'm going to talk about today, and then some other ones, and the list goes on. You can see, we have pelicans from Colombo tagged now in Ampara. We had, spoonbill storks from Bundala, goes all around Lunugambihira and all. And then, this is something very special, tagged eagle. And then the nasty cormorants from Hamilton Canal, now in Mullaitivu. So they fly around a lot. You don't know that if you don't tag them. Right. And then what you get local movement daily, where they go, how susceptible they are for linear infrastructure. If you don't have these, you don't know. You can say no problem, no danger. You can earn money without problem. But when you do that, then sometimes your money-making business can get disrupted. These are the tracks that actually showed that how bad the windmills in Mannar can be. And these are multiple birds, and this is Mannar Island. You can see that how bad the windmills could be. This is about 11 species, about 20 birds, and they generate this much tracks. So Mannar has 1 million birds. So now think about how busy this airspace could be. You put windmills, and you get thousands of birds killed. And every morning, scavengers come and remove all these birds. So if you just send a bunch of people to see whether there's any birds, there's nothing, because the morning, what are the scavengers? Dogs, Brahmini kites, crows, donkeys, more donkeys, then cattle. Maybe some of the workers also were asked to remove the carcasses because unwanted problem maybe later. So by about 8 o'clock, nothing. So you see, no bird deaths here. So anyway, so that's how it is happening in this country. So we are, some of the people in the audience also involved. So we actually study what is the disappearance rate, and what we see is thousands. Right. Anyway, coming back. So what else you get these tags? Those tags tell you the broader movements in the regions, and from Mannar to south and so on. And let's go get into the real business. So again, sorry, the very poor projection. These are brown-headed gulls in Pesale. If you go to Mannar or to Hambantota, Bundala, if you go to Chilau, if you go to Jaffna, if you go to some of the East Coast, you see them, the flocks of brown-headed gulls, basically try to steal fish from fishing nets or, fighting to grab a few, thrown off fish from a fishing boat. So you don't give them much of a credit. We also had the same thing. We were trying to catch Hughlin gulls for a migration monitoring of them from here to Arctic. And as a bycatch, we got a bird, a brown-headed gull. A few birds of brown-headed gulls, I throw few away, just I release them. And one bird, since it's pretty, this one, I thought I'll tag. And we tag it. We tag this one, Hima Kumari. We call it later Hima Kumari. This bird, so it's pretty, so pretty. It's in the breeding plumage in April. Because of that, we tagged it. Gayamini, myself, there were a few others, Jude and I think Jayani and so on. So we tagged it. And then it was very noisy. So all the tagged Hughlin gulls were sleeping. We were waiting to release it the next morning so that then they get a bit of a rest. But this one is very noisy and kind of waking, prevent the other tagged Hughlin gulls who are waiting and resting. She doesn't let others to rest. So at night I release it. so it flew away, and it flew from there to Himalayas, to Tibetan plateau. And she bred the same summer. And that was amazing because this is a 500-gram bird. It's a Cessna, not a Boeing 747. So we call it Hima Kumari just because it's so pretty. And also it started her journey from Mannar on the 25th April, so very late. Because the gulls tend to stay a little bit longer, and then it flew along from Mannar to Iranatiu, to Jaffna Peninsula, to Point Calumet, to the East Coast, to Ganges, and it rests there about a day. In the freshwater, large Ganges provide enough water, and then it flew over. And then by 3rd of May, she was in her breeding grounds, and it crossed Himalayas about 18,000 foot, about 5,500 meter altitude. And it's a lighter species then that recorded doing that. This was in 2021. So since this produces this amazing kind of insight, so we were looking for brown-headed gulls. The first year, anybody who been to nature knows that, we had many brown-headed gulls in the first instance when we tried. Because we were not trying brown-headed gulls, we were looking for Hughlin gulls. But the next year, we were looking for brown-headed gulls, and we couldn't catch. We eventually ended up having a sub-adult brown-headed gull, just one. So we thought, okay, fine, we'll tag it. And we call it Sherpa Tenzing. I'll tell you why later. So that one didn't migrate. So it was even in the beginning of May, it was in Mannar. So I thought, it's okay. It's a young bird. Probably it might not migrate that year. It's a loiterer. It will stay in Mannar. That's fine because we want to know what's happening in Mannar in the summer. And then in 14th of May, by the time the previous year, the bird had started, settling in the Tibetan plateau, the other bird that we tagged. This one suddenly wanted to fly north. It flew basically the same route. The previous, other bird went to the Mahanadi, the Ganges. And then, so it took about 4 days to get there, spend half a day, same night around 10 o'clock, started flying, and at midnight, crosses Himalaya. In that case, it crosses simply over Everest, only 20 kilometers west of Everest. So really tall peak. So probably it's a young bird, it didn't know how to do it. So it was late anyway. So suddenly its hormones, I think, kicked in. So it just flew. In less than 6 days, it was in its breeding grounds. And in the process, it crosses much taller peak near Everest into the other side. So it crosses that in the last week of May. 60 years ago, Edmund Hillary and Sherpa Tenzing, those were the first humans who attempt to cross the threshold of Everest. So they started their journey in, I think, 6th of May, and in 1969, and they conquered Everest in 29th of May, the west slope of Everest. So our bird flew past Everest in somewhere 20 years. So about 6 years ago, in the same week, same days, this great New Zealander and his guide, the Sherpa guide, did the same and conquer some of the biggest physiological thresholds that humanity done with very little technology. So to honor the local guide, so we call it Sherpa Tenzing. And so she did something more for us than Hima Kumari, because she had a return trip as well. So in the northern bound trip that I explained, so they took the east coast, and then this is Sherpa Tenzing. It does that kind of a weird loop because probably it's inexperienced. And on its way back, it took the west coast. So this is called loop migration, where birds fly as a loop and come back. So it came back to Sri Lanka. It's about 4,500 kilometer journey. In the process, bred in the tallest mountain range in the planet, crossed the tallest mountains of the planet, and came back to the humble Pesale, and was fighting with other gulls for Saleas. Disco killer, there's a thing called, the fisherman has the lowest grade fish. It's called disco. It goes to the, it's dried fish in Mannar, the lowest grade dried fish. And they fight with crows and Brahminikites for that. And these are Olympians, and eat really low grade food. But still, Mannar has a direct connection to the mountains of the world. And in the process, how it does it, so some birds flew very far up and cross the Sherpa Tenzing done it like a more of like a leap. So these are the elevations. Again, sorry for the projection. So the altitude, you can measure the altitude shift as they do. But since this is where they cross Himalayas, you can see that they reach that 6,000 meter altitude. But in the process, before that, some birds flew up and probably used their existing currents. And these technologies provide that, insights. Now we have a telecommunication, we have an engineer who's doing the PhD with me now. So Charmikar Gunaratna. So he's an engineer by training, IT engineer. He uses AI and the more big data related technologies. And he's doing his PhD on this same system now. We are, in the context of Gayomini, she's a biologist, I'm a biologist, so our research team is more biology oriented. So we don't have the technological capacity to understand this large data set. So Charmikar will be using his expertise on information technology, is going into these servers and try to get this data and try to superimpose that with weather data, with weather experts and behavioral data to understand how these global weather patterns, psychology of the bird, change as they fly from one part of the world to another part. So while they are flying through, so they take these they take these narrow passages through Himalayas into their breeding grounds. And this is their breeding grounds. What are these? These are the glacier lakes. These lakes are frozen in the winter, but in the summer, in spring, when the sun is warming up, the glaciers melt and creates these water bodies. And these amazingly pretty Tibetan valleys are the places where these birds breed. So these, you can see actually brown-headed gulls in this photo. I was looking for some images, and there were more than often the brown-headed gulls in those images. So they are fairly common in there. And you can see the yaks and, you know, the classic ones. So this is the Sherpa Tenzing's breeding ground. And this is the Hima Kumari's breeding ground. So they're all kind of the, you know, dry, you know, high elevation plateaus. And then they come back. This is Lahiru, who's in Mannar. He takes photos and he studies seabirds. And he managed to capture our Hima Kumari the year after. And so this is her, well, as Lahiru photographs because it was tagged. This is in Pesale, Olutudwai, in the southern part of the Mannar Island. And so why this is important, this story, as I told you, the bar-headed goose is a fairly big bird. It flies over Himalayas, yes. So as demersal cranes, again, big birds. And then the steppe eagle, again, big birds. So most of the birds that we know that fly over Himalayas, the more treacherous parts of Himalayas, are big birds. But these small birds, a quarter the size of that, it's like a small plane try to do like a feat of a jumbo jet. So the physiologists would know that you know, the smaller the animal, your metabolic rate is much higher. Your oxygen demand is higher. Your aerodynamics are weak. So the bigger you are, the better you are, because then your metabolic rate is slow, so your heartbeat is slow, you need less oxygen, you can survive with less oxygen, you can have more myoglobin in the system, and then your wind loading is better controlled. So when you are a small bird, you have all those disadvantages to begin with. And so then you do that. And then when you are in these areas, in these lakes, you are completely freshwater. You feed on freshwater signature. Your diet, your kidney, the way your kidney processes the water, everything is completely different. In Mannar, you have 35 to 40 degrees centigrade temperature. You drink like salty water. You eat fish from the ocean. And here you eat, here you eat freshwater, drink freshwater, eat like probably frogs and insects. And it's cold. It's a completely different system from your kidney to your heart, to your skin, to your gut, everything changes. So these are amazing scientific, you know, opportunities for researchers to study. And it's small. So it possesses extra physiological demands, yet to be understood. There are other birds also do that. A research group in Bangladesh, you know, working on this with the Cambridge University and a few other, you know, Western universities. People in Mongolia study this. So there's more and more birds now, more and more evidence of birds flying through Himalayas, but they find more narrow passages, so they don't have to cross, like, you know, really freezing, you know, treacherous conditions. This is one of our birds. We call it Vayu, and it's a gray plover, and it flew through eastern part of Himalayas, much less altitude, but it went to where the Hughlin gulls bred in the Arctic. I'm not going to talk about the Hughlin gull story, but anyway, so there are other birds from Mannar and Jaffna and Sri Lanka done that, and we know that. And some of the birds never crossed that. Like, you know, we had few Eurasian pigeons. One actually died here in the Indus Valley. Another one, they never attempted that, even though they should do that, probably young birds. So anyway, overall, so this is what you see. Like, this is a kind of grand map of the knowledge. We've recently done a review of the Central Asian flyway using this knowledge of new technologies and new studies. We you put it into one document. It's in review right now. So the white lines are the ones that flew into Himalayas and into Tibet, and they come to Sri Lanka. And then there are other birds that avoid this or go around it, or like these are the Hughlin gulls that fly around it, much longer route, but less treacherous. And then we have other odd ones going to Africa or to Australia and so on. So there's quite a bit of knowledge now, and of that. And then, so there's millions of birds that fly into Sri Lanka through Mannar, Jaffna, and even through Colombo. Not just water birds, the raptors, the forest birds. We are working on forest birds now, like Kashmir flycatcher, and small birds that fly to the mountains of Sri Lanka from the mountains of Himalayas. Like Kashmir, like Indian blue robin type things. They fly from Himalayas to our mountains. In between, you don't see them. So it's amazing. So there are lots of new studies coming from the same aspect, breaking the knowledge gap from Brown-headed Gulls to the smaller birds. Kashmir flycatcher is few grams, so it's tiny. And so we are special. As I started saying that we are very special, we are truly the center of Asia, Asia Kendra. The drug lords know that. So they use, to smuggle drugs from Africa to South America, to all over through Sri Lanka. I think illegal pet trade knows it a bit. So, it's time we should understand our value and our very unique position. Somebody told me once, your country is the belly button of Eastern Hemisphere, right in the middle. So, and also, it's not just the north. The north, yes, it comes and trickles and stops here. From the south, the Great Indian Ocean also see its northern terminus in Sri Lanka. So all these maritime animals like whales to turtles, seabirds, they come and find Sri Lanka as a point. So whether you are from the north or from your south, we are in a really tight squeeze, like the eye of like a hourglass. So things fly north, find Sri Lanka the last terra firma, last terrain. Things swimming from south or swimming over like flying over the ocean from south, find Sri Lanka the end of the ocean. So it's amazing geographic position. With that, I'll have one video to end. It's the love for migration. How migration feels. What's the feeling of migration? It's a science for a scientist. It's an art for an artist. Also, it's a feeling and a desire. Humanity had that desire. We have it. Still most, if I ask from all the undergrads, they wanted to fly to somewhere else. Some might wanted to be rich or whatever. Some just wanted to fly. So that's a desire. I like to, if you can you switch off the lights if you don't mind, if it's possible, and let's enjoy the art, science, and the feel of migration. Can we? It's just 2 minutes. you. And yeah, I've seen that many times, but amazing. It's amazing feel. So yeah, so I'm just a spokesperson here. So there's lots of people involved, a lot of institutes involved. There's a few now. We have postdoc and PhD and a master student involved, and gamut of undergrads and scientists. Sponsors. Mr. Nyanam supported us throughout for our fieldwork in Mannar and elsewhere, and in the Chinese Academy of Sciences. And anyway, so lots of people, lots of agencies helped us, and the work continues. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Sampath, for that very amazing and enlightening lecture. Now we can move on to the Q&A session. So can I please invite Dr. Malik Fernando, our patron, to come up on stage with Professor Sampath. Okay.
We haven't. We wanted to, but it's once we had the opportunity to tag, but it's highly politicized. We didn't want to do it because the flamingo flock in Mannar, for example, it's heavily used by the tourism industry, especially the locals, because when you have the flamingo flock, the hotels are filled with visitors. So we didn't want to disrupt that. If some reason, if the flock moves away, then you are affecting the entire economy, and it's very negative. So once we thought we had the opportunity to catch, but we didn't attempt. We were catching something else, and the flamingo flock came very close to us. But I was hoping we get one, but at the same time hoping not. We didn't want it to be a big scene there. So we didn't. But then in Jaffna, we wanted to catch one, but the conditions in Jaffna is a bit tough to catch a flamingo. But anyway, the answer is not yet. We did, yeah, we did. Yeah. There's in science, there's more, few successes and a lot of failures. We had bar-tailed godwits, just 3 subspecies. We thought we had a really best eastern subspecies, the Baurai, once, and we tagged it, and we tagged the western subspecies as well as we tagged a few black-tailed godwits from Hambantota. So we had a really good run of godwits. The entire series of tags, 14 of them failed. So the technology didn't work. So even though we had like few bar-tailed godwits, it's very tough to catch, not common. And then black-tailed godwits, even though common, hard to catch. We caught like the entire series, including some other species like a few wimbrels, Eurasian curlew, like all the mid to large size waders. So that entire batch failed. It's one of the subspecies and one population in Alaska. I don't think we get them here, but we don't know. At least we had fairly close, phenotypically somewhat closer looking bird there. We had very high hopes. But well, one day we'll break that. Yeah. I know. Yes, that's from Alaska to New Zealand. Yes, direct flight. Yes, non-stop. Over the ocean. Yes, but that's one population. Then then there are other amazing ones. So they fly from south through Hawaii, but fly north through Yellow Sea. So it's a loop migration and Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's other species also does that because it's continuous flying. They fly about 300 kilometers per hour. Sorry, not hour per day. and continuously flying, and then they stop at times, called stopover sites. But anyway, yeah, it's a complex story. Yeah,
we showed a photograph of a European stork with a spear through the neck.
yeah.
I mean that bird flew from Namibia to Europe.
Yeah. Not just one, but there are in certain in museums in Europe, there are like a collection of specimens with different spears jutting out. So, like if it is not damage, if it didn't damage the vital organs, they fly. I mean, I'm pretty sure you get thousands and tens of thousands of them get killed, but then odd bird would fly with it. Yes, so that's exactly what they've done. Yes. Yeah. There are, I've seen in I think in Austria or in Netherlands, where there's a display of about 4 or 5 storks with and ducks, geese with the spears. Yeah, they're lightweight. That's the first thing. And if it doesn't go through a vital organ, I think the bird flies. There's no way to get rid of it for them. So. All right then. I think I'll call it today. Right. Thank you for coming. Yeah, and braving the weather and all.